I've seen almost every Christopher Nolan film, even his first film, Following, which he started when he was still in college. He's by far my favorite director, and as a filmmaker myself, I aspire to be like him in some capacity. And a few nights ago, halfway through watching one of his most expensive films yet, with a star-studded cast and already amazing reviews online, I turned to my wife, I stood up, and I walked out of the theater. And the reason why is probably not what you're thinking. From the parts that I saw, the movie was good. Not perfect, but good. If you don't know the story of the Odyssey, in a nutshell, it's a Greek epic written by Homer about a hero in his grueling journey back home to reclaim his kingdom. Along the way, him and his men encounter a ton of danger and mythical creatures that threaten their lives. Although this isn't the reason why I walked out, it was really jarring for me to have the characters speak modern English language. Something that Nolan actually caught flack for, but for me, it's not about historical accuracy, it's more so about my ability to actually get lost in the narrative. I genuinely love period pieces, and the costumes, the locations, the props all work to transport the viewer from modern day time to a time that was before any of us existed. So imagine my surprise when Tom Holland opens his mouth and he sounds like Tom Holland. The star-studded cast didn't make this any better. In fact, it just felt like I was being bombarded by a bunch of famous actors playing themselves. The pacing also felt a little rushed to me, which is crazy because the movie's almost 3 hours long. But I actually think they could have spent a little bit more time allowing us to connect with the characters. I felt slightly lost, and I kept convincing myself that eventually the film would all make it worthwhile, and it did when Matt Damon showed up. I think Matt Damon does a great job of playing Odysseus, and I generally felt drawn to his burden of trying to get himself and his men back home safely. Also, seeing the story of the Trojan horse brought to life was incredible. I was on the edge of my seat, and that was a moment where my wife and I were literally going back and forth talking about how epic that scene was. And despite us walking out just about 40 minutes later, I do want to note that I love the fact that Christopher Nolan chose to do practical effects in this movie. In the era of AI, where every day it feels like we have to question whether what we're seeing is real or generated by a computer somewhere, it felt really good to know that what I'm seeing is actually happening to the characters. In another one of my videos, I actually break down some of the issues that I have with AI specifically in the film industry, but both as a filmmaker and a viewer, I have to say I prefer to see less of it. So, after watching about half of the movie, I finally decided enough was enough. If you're new to this channel, I'm a Christian filmmaker, and I typically watch popular movies and break them down for hidden biblical messages. And I was watching the Odyssey specifically with the goal of finding some type of value that I can bring back and share with my audience. I ultimately left because this one scene triggered me both emotionally and spiritually to let me know that it was time to go. Now, to be honest, watching R-rated movies is pretty rare for me. I don't like to watch films that have a lot of highly sexual or violent content, mainly because I know my limits and I try not to cross them. But the reason why I chose to watch the Odyssey even though it was rated R is because a lot of the talk online was that it wasn't that R-rated. And from the parts that I saw, other than a little bit of gore, it really wasn't that bad. Christopher Nolan actually did a great job of showing less and allowing the audience to fill in the blanks on their own. But once it got to the witchcraft scene, I was done. So witchcraft is displayed within the film, and for me, it was chilling. Now, mind you, there was several scenes with mythical creatures before this scene came, but none of them affected me quite like this one. During the scene, I felt something tugging on my spirit that made me feel very uncomfortable, and the soundscape of the scene as a whole really immerses you in the experience. And it's different when you're watching a movie at home where if you don't want to hear something, you can just mute it. But obviously in a theater, there's no escaping it. Both my wife and I were plugging our ears and we could still hear everything. It was a lot. And the reason why I don't really mess around with that kind of stuff is because I grew up in a West Indian culture and you hear stories about demonic or supernatural activity pertaining specifically to witchcraft. This is part of the reason why the Bible forbids this type of activity. Not because it's fake, but because it's actually real. And Christians, or just people in general, should be wary about what they consume. And there's one major lesson that I learned from this entire experience that I'll share with you. But before I do, I just want to highlight VidAngel. Now, VidAngel is a company that allows families to watch movies at home and filter out the parts they don't feel comfortable with. They're extremely customizable and they allow you to check boxes like violence, language, or nudity so that when you're watching on your streaming provider, it will automatically skip or mute the parts you don't want. They're not about censorship. They're more about allowing audiences to consume content on their own terms. And this is perfect for people like me who want to capture the message of a story without being fully impacted by the method in which it's being told. VidAngel hasn't sponsored this video, but I think they have a great product and I wanted to offer it to anyone who actually needs it. I'll put the link in the description box below so you can give it a try. So following the witchcraft scene, I turned to my wife and I said, hey, if you want to leave, we can leave. And we watched maybe for about 5 more minutes. Something else creepy came up. So she said, I'm good. I stood up and we both walked out together. That was my first time actually walking out of a movie. And surprisingly, it was easier than I thought. That's because I truly believe that no story, no matter how great it is worth your mental security. Movies and entertainment often have the ability to live in our minds for much longer than we want them to. And I hope that this video gives someone the courage the next time that you're feeling triggered by a movie, you don't have to push through it. But instead, you can use sound judgment around what you choose to consume and how you choose to consume it. The security of your mind is more important than seeing how a movie ends. And scripture actually gives us clarity on this by saying, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. I would love to start a conversation about this in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys thought about this experience, and if you've seen the movie, I'd love to hear your feedback of how it made you feel. Now, if you are interested in seeing my breakdown of another summer movie, Young Washington, I invite you to click this video right here. I'm sure you're gonna love it. Until next time, take care.